Welcome back to the Barca Breakdown. My name is Yusuf, and I'm here with my co-host Adam.
Hey guys, hit that subscribe button if you are happy that Ronald Koeman is officially gone. Use sad to say about a club legend, but boy, what an absolute train wreck today was, right? We have not, Barca, won a competitive game away from home since May 22nd, and we hadn't lost to Rayo Vallecano in 19 years. And then we come out there, and I know Pedri and Frankie de Jong are injured, and I know, we're still playing Desta's right wing, and Araujo's injured, and we have some, Fati can't play because of his knee. But, boy, it was one of the worst displays I've ever seen from Barca, and it drove everyone mad, right? I think even though we had set up this, kind of narrative in our minds, and I think this was the popular narrative that, hey, Laporta's putting his faith behind Koeman because we don't want to pay him the payout money, and as long as we make Champions League and top 4 in La Liga and we make it through the group stages of Champions League, we'll be all right. But after today's game, that narrative went and died. It died a cruel death because the way this team is playing is just crazy, and it's not just clear that there's no sort of practice for shooting in our team. There's also clearly no offensive at all mindset for how to score a goal. I mean, it was so frustrating watching that whole game, and the last few games, how we have the ball so much, and then we get it around the box, and everyone just kind of runs around and like dribbles, and then no one's making any sort of runs or making passes, and you take it over, Yus. It was crazy, right? It was beyond belief.
It was a disheveled game. There was no cohesion. We've said this time and time again. Under Koeman, it's Koeman ball. There's no strategy going into the offense. Our players, we had some substitutes coming in due to all injuries, like Coutinho was in the midfield, for example, and Nico as well. Well, the only highlight of this game, and I truly think the only highlight of this game, was Nico's performance for such a young player in the midfield. I think he did a fantastic job.
Certainly.
But, it is just a jumble of players.
He's lost
on
the team, Yus. He's lost the team, right? Like these players can't. Like Jordi Alba, I think he's hurt. Otherwise, he just doesn't care. And it just seems like some of the other players don't care. Busquets continues to just be pretty lackluster at times this season. And what the narrative that I keep thinking about, and we've talked about this so many times, is like we have so many players who, when they play for their national teams, are always posted on ESPN FC, Bleacher Report Football about how Nico's a gem, how Busquets still has it, how Depay is so good, and they come to Barca and they just play like total crap. And it's just there's been too many examples this season for the fact that Koeman is the root of all of our issues, and I wanted to support Koeman, right? Like you say, Koeman ball is a derogatory way. There was a time during March and April and February of this year where Koeman ball was a good thing, right? Where there was some movement, there was connecting with Messi, and there was winning late games in the Copa del Rey where our team gave a crap and was actually fighting, right? And you get to this point, and it just seems like he's lost the dressing room. No one cares, and I think part of his post-match comments and part of what he's been saying the last few weeks really digs into it, right? He goes, after their goal, we played a good game, we controlled the opponent and generated many chances, but we did not score. That raises doubts. The result is not fair, but the result is there and we cannot change it. And his comments just seem to never put the blame on himself, right? And I think, as we all know, when you want to actually make improvements in life, like the number one thing you have to do is take ownership of your mistakes. And whether it's these comments after this game or it's other comments where he says, I just don't have the squad, right? He said that, and then we got Luc de Jong because he wanted him. And Luc de Jong has been one of the worst signings I've ever seen in the history of any sporting team ever, right? And so, Koeman just continuously doesn't take blame. And so we have spoken so many times in the last few weeks about the one frustrating thing about Koeman is that there doesn't seem to be any sort of level of progression in this team. And when you have a coach who just can't take blame, there's no way for him to actually look at himself and think, hey, maybe I'm the problem. And so Laporta and the board had to make the decision. I'm glad they made it quick today, and they finally bit the bullet and paid the money to fire Koeman. And, one thing people are saying is like, hey, our team is in such bad straits, like I mentioned, that we stand to lose a lot more if we keep Koeman and don't make it out the group stages of the Champions League and don't make Champions League next season than we do to pay him the $12 million, even in the financial ruin we're in. And so it's clearly the fans had lost him a long time ago, and the board, as much as Laporta and the board tried to, keep Koeman to not pay and just say, hey, things will get better. This was just the watershed moment. I think as Barca fans, we will really remember this Rayo Vallecano game forever, because it was just like the moment where it was clear, like, oh, our club legend, the man who scored the goal of 92, is just not good enough to be our coach. And now, Yus, we have the news that Xavi is imminent. Doesn't look like he'll be here immediately, but it looks like he will be here around the Celta Vigo game on November 6th, if everything goes according to plan, which, as we know as Barca fans, it doesn't. But I just went through a lot, Yus. Let me know your thoughts as we head into talking about Xavi. What are your thoughts about Laporta finally making the move? Is there any chance you think this was a mistake on the board's part to fire Koeman? What do you think?
No, I mean, dude, we've been talking about this for such a long time. Koeman needed to be sacked, and I think, Messi kind of covered up a lot of the mistakes. And
the greatest player of all
errors.
time, man. Honestly, when they
Yes.
look back at Messi's career, it shouldn't be, the 4 Champions Leagues, the 8 La Ligas in 11 years. It shouldn't be the 92 goals in a season. It shouldn't be the best dribbler of all time, best scorer, best passer of all time. What really should be remembered about how Lionel Messi is so good is how he carried the stretch of, end of Valverde, Setien, Koeman to compete for titles, because without him it is just
and that's what we've come to figure out. Barca had problems, that was 100% true, but with Koeman coming in last season with Messi, and things weren't great. What you saw the end of our run of last year, and they weren't good. And now we come into this year, we lose Messi, and clearly Laporta is watching all of this, even though he said, hey, Koeman's safe, we have his back, we support him. Clearly the $12 million, even in financial ruin, was not enough to say, hey, we should keep him just for financial reasons. Clearly, they weighed their decisions and said, look, I'll pay the $12 million. And on top of that, not winning Champions League or not even progressing through Champions League loses the franchise so much money, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's TV rights, you name it. And then in La Liga, finishing, we're 9th on the table. We're not.
Yeah, we were
that,
counting how many games played against Rayo in hopes of trying to convince ourselves that we would actually win a game. It's tough straits, right? But here's let me set up this situation as we look into Xavi, right? Because I know some people are going to think I am somehow negative on Xavi. Totally not negative on Xavi, and I think he will. He has a potential to be a really great and monumental coach in our history. It's just a question of whether now is the right time and under these circumstances, right? Because let me paint the picture. So, a club legend has just left in the summer, and now we are hiring another club legend to take over as coach of a team that has clearly in the recent past shown they have mistakes and they can't really perform well in big games, right? And I'm not talking use. I am not talking about losing Luis Suarez, club legend, and hiring club legend Ronald Koeman, and the mistakes of Bayern 8-2 and the seasons previous. I'm talking about Xavi right now, right? And I build that up because we're looking at putting Xavi into the same situation we put Koeman into, and I'm scared for him. I'm scared for him because of how the fans are and because of the perpetual excellence we've had for the last, decade and a half. And with expectations so high, and Xavi himself, because of how legendary of a player he is for our club, coming in, the expectations are going to be high again. And we just talked about this argument where it's like, hey, we would lose more money by missing group stages of Champions League and the Champions League next year than the $12 million spent on Koeman's termination clause. But there's no guarantee Xavi will make any of those, right? It's really a big gamble we're putting, and I feel like we're putting one of our biggest future chips, right? I think of Xavi as this $100 million chip that we can place at some point in the future, and placing him now, I'm just worried we're doing the same thing we did to Koeman.
I mean, we are. Definitely, we're putting him in the same exact situation, although the only difference is he doesn't get Messi to play with. But, look, we have the talent on the pitch. I just don't think Koeman was the man to direct and orchestrate our victories on the pitch. And the real tragedy of Koeman's reign on Barcelona is that he didn't improve the team. And I think the only difference here is I think Xavi will be able to do that because he has maybe more of a modern take on the team, and he's been managing El Saad and doing a good job.
You're right. One big thing, right, is that Everton fans told us that Koeman was a poo-poo manager, right? They told us he was really bad. And, there was that track record of Koeman not being a great coach that could have made this a lot more predictable than it ended up being. And the only other thing I would say is different about Xavi is that he comes into a group with a lot more young talent, one, and two, with a team that's already gotten rid of Messi. So there's no more of this fruit hanging over Xavi of Messi's career and what his coaching will have ramifications. It's something we've mentioned a lot. But, we all are now all chips in on a rebuild. And so I feel like there's only the way
thing,
up, right? Whereas when Koeman came in, there was clearly like expectations. For Xavi, he's coming into a team that's already out of the La Liga title race, that's already has its back up against the wall in the Champions League. And so I do hope he has only the way up. And then as well, he has Nico, he has Gavi, he has Pedri, he has Fati back from injury. He has Araujo, Mingueza, right? There are some players in the last 2 years under Koeman, it must be added, last year and a half, that are more developed now and that he can take and help mold. What were you going to say, Yus?
But the other thing is that Koeman came into it with Messi, right? He probably strategized his whole plan around Messi. Then he lost Messi, and then I feel like he just didn't know what to do. And then, on top of the injuries,
he thought
that
we were going to get some other players, right? He thought we had a chance to like keep Messi, keep Griezmann. I mean, there were some legitimate things that Koeman lost. That of course. If you lost Griezmann and Messi in a season, any team would be pretty bad. And so, but that's my point: is that we all have the understanding of these huge losses that Koeman faced, and yet we still didn't cut him any slack. And of course, we shouldn't have because of how bad it ended up being. And so, I hope to see Xavi not get fed to the wolves, and I hope us as fans are willing to actually buy into the idea of a rebuild and to understand that Xavi will have to improve as a coach and improve the team, right? And I think one of the interesting things, and it's maybe my last thing I want to talk about here, is like we're going to really find out with Xavi as coach, and we're assuming Xavi because all the reports say so, but don't hold us to it if it doesn't happen. We're going to really find out who is not at the level to play for our team and who was not at the level to play for our team because of Koeman as coach, right? I think there are some players like Frankie de Jong who is at the right level. He just has not been coached well. I think there are some players like Roberto and Piqué and Busquets that we're going to have to see, right? Rashad Rahman will put up here, had a tweet saying, hey, is Xavi going to have the balls to bench Piqué, Busquets, and Roberto, players he knows well, respects, and has won titles with, in favor of a team that wins? And so what do you think? Do you think, Xavi will have the authority and the feeling to bench those old guard Barca players? And then two, who are the players you think will all of a sudden see, hey, that player's not that bad, they were just coached poorly by Koeman?
Sure. I don't think he's going to be totally liberated to bench Piqué and and Busquets. Sergio Roberto, I think won't have a problem with, and there are reports that he may not even re-sign. But the reason being is because we're still in a difficult situation. We still have a lot of injuries. Pedri's out. We do have people like Puig on the bench, but I just don't think he has that.
He doesn't have the players to really make those big moves yet.
Yeah, so, and then on top of that, Araujo's hurt. Lenglet hasn't had a lot of playtime. Umtiti hasn't had a lot of playtime. But the one thing I will say is the players that I think will improve are obviously the players that have the work ethic, like Frankie de Jong, like Pedri, who's already done a great job. But obviously there's always room for getting better. Fati, you name it, Dest. But what I was going to say was that these players are in a situation that they, from certain reports, they said that their training wasn't super intense. And I think Aguero has said the same thing.
Everyone's been saying that.
Yeah. So I think if that situation somehow gets changed and Xavi comes in and really pushes these players to what they're capable of, things will change. But that is totally speculation. That's totally something we have to see. But I just don't think he will be able to really bench those in the situation, those Busquets and Piqué in a situation that we're currently standing in.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you guys for listening. As you can see, I'm in my hotel room on a work trip in Las Vegas, actually. So just wanted to say, please hit that subscribe button if you're happy that we made the change from Koeman out. And then, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are about all these big news, because we're going to be back this weekend covering the next game. Right, Yus?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
See you,
Bye-bye.
guys.